start with a little bit of my introduction, but before I do that, I just want to make sure that every one of you, please ask questions, and you can ask your questions in the chat box. Okay, so put your questions on the chat box, and we'll try to answer them as soon as possible. Okay, thank you. So I work as an enterprise agile coach and an agile program manager in one of the global corporations today. And I've over the years I've led agile transformations and have coached teams on agile and safe across various industries, and I've worked in various different roles, ranging from Scrum Master to Release Train Engineer to Agile Coach in various different industries: healthcare, insurance, retail, finance. And I started my career as a electronics and communication engineer, but later down the line, my interests, they incline more towards business and management, and hence my degrees. And also down the line, I started to learn about agile and safe, and it again piqued my interest. And so since then, I've always tried to keep myself up to date with all safe and agile certifications, and try to make sure that I'm up to date with whatever happening in safe and agile world. So we have a fully packed agenda today. We are going to talk about a waterfall model, agile model, and brief history of agile, which is very, very interesting. And then we're going to talk about the differences between agile and waterfall, how they differ from each other, how those two models they are different for different processes and different industries. And then what are the benefits of agile that the industries have seen over the years over waterfall. And then we'll see how agile adoption has taken place over the years, and how it has changed the mindset of different organizations and industries, and how it can be the future, and how it will be the future uh, in the upcoming years. And then we'll talk about different flavors of agile, different methodologies which follow the underlying agile principles. So we'll talk about those, and then we'll talk about two of the most popular flavors of agile, which are Scrum and Safe. So moving forward, so we'll start with our waterfall model, which was one of the older models that has been in the industry since around 5 decades. And in waterfall methodology, uh, it's basically a phased approach where the work is being done in different phases. So the development life cycle, it takes place in phases where there is no overlap, where there is no overlap, and also you cannot go back to the previous stage if you want to. So that is why the name. So it's always falling downwards. That's why it's called waterfall. So you'll have a requirement stage, and then design, and then development and testing. And if you want to go back, you cannot go back. It will always move forward and downwards. So this is your waterfall model. And in agile, so agile was a newer approach. So I'll talk more about it in the history, how it evolved. But agile is more of an iterative approach. It's basically all your phases, they are happening continuously, and incrementally in time boxed fashion. Okay, and so for example, your deployment, your testing, your development, design, requirements, all are happening continuously at one time, and they are happening in form of iterations. So we can have a 2-week iterations, which we call sprints, or you can have a 3-week iterations. It depends, but it will happen incrementally in iterations and continuously. So these three words, so focus on these three words: iterative, continuous, and incremental. So that's what defines agile. So that is how it is different from waterfall. That's one of the differences. Okay, so we'll talk about the brief history of agile, how agile started. And it all started with waterfall. Was first documented in 1970 by a person named Royce. So that was the first documented evidence of waterfall. And then at that point of time in 1970s, software engineering was evolving, and it was mostly following the footsteps of physical engineering, which was prominent in the industries like aerospace, defense, manufacturing. So your software engineering was following the footsteps of these industries, and which used to be benefited by using the phased approaches. So they were mostly using waterfall. So software engineering, it also started using waterfall at that point of time. So by mid 1980s, what started to happen was all these organizations and industries, they started realizing the drawbacks of waterfall, and how they were losing lots of dollars, lots of money, by using waterfall. Because in waterfall, what would happen was that whole of your product, it would be delivered into the market in its entirety. So it would take maybe multiple years sometimes by the time a product was launched into the market. So by the time it would market, so what would happen was that either the product would lose its shine, so it's no more required by the market, or the problem due to which this problem was a solution, so the problem would change. So due to which a lot of these waterfall projects, they had to be stopped in the middle. So companies were losing a lot of money. So they were thinking about alternate approaches to product development, which could accelerate product delivery. So one of the very famous articles, it was called a new product development game. It came out in 1986 by two Harvard professors. It was written by two Harvard professors, and it was their name was Hirotaka Taikochi and Ikejiro Nonaka. So they wrote this article, and in this article they emphasized upon the speed of delivery of product development, and also how the continuous feedback can be gained from the customers, so that there is continuous improvement taking place in your product development. And also some of the organizations, they started using these new product development methods, their own product development methods, on the side. So in this article, in this paper, these professors also, they talked about how those organizations uh, like Canon, Honda, or your Xerox, HP, how those organizations were using these new product development models on the side. So so this is a long paper, very interesting paper article. So what we will do is we will share the link to this article with you. So it's an interesting read along with the recording at the end of this webinar. So after this, what happened was in early 1990s, a lot of lightweight methodologies, they started arising, and Scrum was created by Jeff Sutherland in 1993 for the first time. So he wrote a paper on that, and he presented in Austin, Texas. So it was the first time when Scrum was created, where again it was the more iterative and incremental approach to product development. And the name Scrum, it came from the game rugby, from the sport rugby. So as opposed to a relay race where you are taking the baton and the runner passes on the baton to the second runner, so it's more of like a phased approach. So this was more of a rugby approach where whole of the team moves together from one phase to the other, meaning so it's more collaborative. It's more transparent. So that is what the essence of Scrum was, and that is how it came into picture. And also at the same time, as other lightweight methodologies were also arising, we had extreme programming as well. So it came out around the same time. But the real milestone which came in the history of Agile was in 2001, when one of the aerospace engineer, John Kern, he was really frustrated with all these drawbacks of the product development. And he basically gathered like-minded set of engineers. So there were 16 other engineers. So all these 17 engineers, they met They did a meeting in Utah, and they came up with Agile Manifesto. So they basically, their focus was, how to accelerate the delivery and delivery of product development, and how they can continuous feedback. So as a result, the Agile Manifesto was created, which was the cornerstone and milestone in the history of Agile. And although the other lightweight methodologies which were proliferating on the sites, they got a real underlying base on which they could define their methodologies. So Agile Manifesto was basically it had four. It was based upon four different values, and those were individuals and interactions over processes and tools. So rather than focusing on processes and tools and technology, so it was more. So they believed that the value was more on individuals and interactions. That value was more in in-person communication rather than in process and tools. Though those are important, but personal interaction is most important. And then working software over comprehensive documentation. So basically, I build my component and I just write a document and just sign it off. So it was not like that. Working software, you have to show working software. So that was more important to them. Documentation is important, but working software is more important. We have to showcase our working software to our customers. Customer collaborations over contract negotiation. So we are not having a customer just in the beginning of the project, just signing the contract, and then in the end of the project after 1 year, when our product is built. So only twice in the whole year the customer was communicated. No, customer collaboration at all times was the focus. To gain that continuous feedback was the focus. And then responding to change over following a plan. So we just created a plan, we chalked out a plan for 1 year. Now we are stringent. We are stringent that we are not going to change anything in that plan for the whole year. Even if customer wants to change, if there are changing requirements, we are not changing anything. So no, that was not what it was. It was basically responding to change, being adaptive to whatever we are receiving from customers. So the requirements may change. So we should be adaptive enough. We should be agile enough to respond to those changes rather than just be stringent or narrow-minded to just following a particular plan. So these were the four main values of Agile Manifesto, and on which they also created 12 principles based upon this Agile Manifesto. So then what happened was, the same group, they came up with Agile Manifesto. The same group, they created an organization which was a non-profit organization, and they called it Agile Alliance. And what the goal of this organization was, to help the other teams who are basically looking to transform into Agile, to help them transform into Agile, and also to make sure that the Agile is spread across. So that was one of the few major goals of this organization, and also to make sure that Agile evolves over time and new things are added in Agile as per the market needs. So after this Agile Alliance was formed, within a year they conducted an Agile annual conference, which was one of the first of its kind. It even happens today globally, but that was again another milestone. And from there, Agile gained a lot of traction, and more new practices they started adding into Agile, like your daily meetings, or your retrospectives, your reviews, so all these, or writing user stories. So all these practices they kept on adding into Agile. So, and then after 2010, Agile framework took real steam, and by 2015 it reached around 50% adoption. And the most the most used lightweight methodologies which have been used in Agile is Scrum. And even today, the new models or the new methodologies which are coming in, they go hand in hand with Agile. So you take an example of DevOps, it goes hand in hand with Agile. You take SAFe, it's one of the most prominent frameworks, right? Scaled Agile frameworks. It also it also basically focuses on the underlying principles of Agile. So Agile is everywhere, and it's also has or is showing promising results for the future. And in a little bit, I'll also talk about some numbers, which will be very interesting to see. What are the numbers we have in terms of Agile adoption? So before we go there, we'll have a quick poll. We'll give it a minute, and we'll see. We want to see, in our current what our current attendees are doing today. So are they following Waterfall, Agile, or any other practices? So just take a moment. Let's take a minute and let's see where what practices or which model are you using at your workplace today. Okay, just post in the chat box.
Pratik, I'm seeing a lot of responses on Agile.
Great.
A few indicate both. There are some responses for the other as well, but Agile is being the dominant option.
Yeah. So as expected, right? So everyone knows about Agile today, and and in lot of organizations still today we are using hybrid, and we are using Waterfall along with Agile, as we also see in our attendee response in the poll. But Agile is the most prominent, as we see. So that is great. So we'll talk about the differences between Agile and Waterfall, and how Agile and Waterfall are different from each other, and in what way Agile differentiates itself when it comes to other processes. So it separates the project development life cycle into sprints. So in Agile, as I mentioned before, it's in time box fashion, and it's in form of sprints, while Waterfall is a phased process. It has phase gates, and you cannot go back to the previous phase. And also, the Agile is an incremental and iterative approach, as I mentioned, and Waterfall is a sequential design process. And Agile is known for its flexibility. It's adaptive in nature. It's adjusting in nature. So if any new requirement or anything comes, if any changes are coming in, the Agile teams are agile enough to take those changes. That's the beauty of Agile. On the other hand, Waterfall, it's pretty stringent. It's very rigid. It's so if anything comes in the middle of Waterfall methodology, any changes come, any requirements come, then at the end you have to go through whole change management process. You have to go through whole budgeting. You have to go through whole resourcing. Everything you have to go back together, and it's a loss of money, time, and value. So and our product is not being launched into the market on time, and this leads to customer dissatisfaction as well. And Agile is a collection of many different, so it can be considered as a collection of many different projects, because in different sprints we are building one single component or a part of a component, which is like a working software which we are presenting to our customers. So it can be said as a collection or considered as a collection of many different projects. While software development, while Waterfall is one single big project where the value is delivered right at the end after 1 year when a project is done. So it's one single project. Um, so as I mentioned, Agile is very flexible, and it can take the changes, and Waterfall scope of changes. And so all these processes, requirements gathering, design, development, testing, so all these are happening concurrently, continuously in Agile at one time. While in Waterfall, it's phase gates approach. So once your development is done, so after 1 month testing will start, and then after 1 month your UAT or something will start. So it will be in the phased, it will be in different phases. So, and also, if on in testing we see a lot of defects, if it can impact the requirements change. So testing team can impact the change in the requirements right then and there. While in Waterfall, the testing team cannot initiate any change in the requirement, even if they find that the quality of the product being built, or the quality of the functionality or the requirements that is being built is not good enough. Still, the testing team cannot initiate any change in the requirements. uh, Agile prefers small but dedicated teams with a high degree of coordination and sync. So one of the powerful factors of Agile is their teams. The team members are very motivated. They are self-motivated. They are they talk about innovation. They think about innovation. They synchronize. They work in synchronization with each other. They coordinate at a very high level, and they have a and they are very they are highly efficient knowledge workers. And they, most of them, are or have T-shaped skills, meaning they have cross functional skills, meaning they may have expertise in one thing, but they know other things as well. While in Waterfall, um, team coordination and synchronization is very limited. The teams are not cross functional. The person who is working on testing is only the tester, or who is developing is only the developer. They specialize in only in those skills. And product owners with team prepares requirements just about every day. So our product owner in Agile is our proxy customer. They are involved every day in the execution with the team. So there is a continuous feedback that we get in the face of product owner when we talk about Agile, or when we are implementing Agile. While on the other hand, in Waterfall, in the requirement phase, once your business analysts prepares a requirement doc, and then signs it off and gets the sign off on the document, then done and dusted, right? Then these requirements, they move to the next phase, and the job is done. In Agile, customers consistently engage with the team. So as I mentioned, for the like PO, and also at the end of the iteration or sprint, when the team is doing their demo, right? So they're presenting their working software, whatever they developed during that sprint. So all the stakeholders, business owners, they are invited in that demo, in that review. So there's a consistent feedback loop there. And I already covered that Agile team members are cross-functional, and they're self-organized. And they don't need a manager. They don't need a project manager to manage them. While on the other hand, Waterfall, the project manager plays an essential role in the development life cycle. So these are few of the key differences, between Agile and Waterfall, and how Agile differentiates itself when it comes to Agile and Waterfall. Moving on to the benefits of Agile. So we already saw a few benefits when I talked before about Agile, and we'll talk about few more. So it is focused client process. It makes sure that the client is continuously involved during every stage. This is one of the benefit: continuous feedback to inspect and adapt to that feedback. That is the main one of the major values that we receive out of Agile. And teams are highly motivated. They are self-organized, and they have innovative mindset, those teams, and which helps produce better results. They produce lesser time to market, better quality, and better satisfaction, not only customer satisfaction, but also better employee satisfaction. Agile software development assures the quality of development is maintained, correct? And then it's an incremental progress, and at every phase your customer knows that what you have built and what is your progress. So unlike other processes, you are not just raising a red flag just 2 days before the release, that, oh, we are behind the schedule, or what, we are not able to build as per the plan, right? So at each and every step, the customer involvement, it helps in providing that knowledge to the customer, that where we are in terms of our progress. And again, customers, they have the chance to review, and even if those sprint reviews, when the team is demoing the software, the customer, they give their feedback, And based upon that feedback, they can be changed in the requirements. The requirements can be molded and can be taken in our next sprint's backlog, or maybe in further sprints backlog, as an improvement, as improvement items. And again, customers see results frequently, and they see results early in the project life cycle, as I mentioned, right? So they're not seeing it right towards the end. They see the results right, right when the product is being built. And the customers also play a hands-on role working directly with the project team. So as I said, PO is always there. He's a proxy customer, and he's always there with the team. He's always there in the daily stand-ups. He's always aware of, what is the direction in which team is building. He's always there to clarify the requirements if team needs to be, right? And also, side by side, bugs are also getting identified. So quality, there's always a built-in quality that is being that is being induced into your execution. So bugs are constantly identified and getting resolved. And if any adjustments are required, those are also taken place before the at each and every sprint. So these are some of the benefits, and some of the key benefits, how agile, is basically how agile ranks over, other different methodologies, and why it is being so, why it is being used why it is used across so many industries and everywhere today, because of these benefits. So very interesting. So now we are going to talk about uh, any adoption. What are the adoption statistics for Agile? What are the latest Agile trends? Why are industries using Agile? Why most of our participants here, right? They are using Agile. So 71%, so whopping 71% of the companies are adopting Agile. So it's a big chunk which is adopting Agile today. And Agile adoption has helped 90% of the, and most of those companies which have adopted Agile, almost all of them have benefited from it in one way or the other. 60% of the companies have experienced growth in profits. 60% of the companies after adopting an Agile approach. And these are the real facts, numbers taken from the industry. 80% of federal IT projects, not only private companies, but even the government, the federal projects, the government projects, they are using Agile today. They have adopted Agile wholeheartedly, 80% of those. The failure rate of Agile is very low as compared to Waterfall. So it's only 8% as compared to Waterfall, which is 21% of Waterfall projects, they fail. Agile has been seen uh, as a big improvement, especially in the marketing departments of the company. So CMOs, 80% of CMOs, chief marketing officers, have noticed an increase in productivity after adopting Agile. So even at department level, forget about organization, even the departments, they are benefiting from Agile adoption. Companies experience 60% in revenue and profit revenue and profit growth. So 60% growth in revenue have been experienced, which is a big number. 60% revenue and profit growth is a big number. Companies have experienced that. And Agile success rate is almost twice, more than 1.5 times higher than that of Waterfall projects. 42% versus 26%. So these are some of the very key statistics which help us to think that how Agile is transforming the world and organizations today. 14% more companies are using pure Agile and adoption processes. Are using pure Agile adoption processes than Waterfall. So meaning, so 16% of the companies, or 16%, are using pure Agile. So pure Agile meaning nothing else. no waterfall, nothing, no other methodology. 16% are using pure agile, while only 2% today rely on pure waterfall. So it's 14% more companies are using pure agile adoption, or having pure agile adoption. And 80% of federal IT projects adopt agile. Covered. Agile is going to expand into more. Okay, even in the current COVID situation, the trend of adoption of agile is not going down, it's going up still. And agile is going to expand into more business sectors in 2020. Software development firms plan to be more agile in 2020. So even after the current COVID situation, the firms are planning to expand their adoption of agile in 2020. It's estimated that in US alone, so alone in US, 50% of agile teams are expected to work remotely. So because of the current situation, most of the companies, they are most of the companies, they are working remotely. They're planning to work remotely, but that is not having any negative impact on agile delivery. 50% of agile teams are still expected to work remotely in 2020. So this is the power of agile, and how this is how all these numbers, what they show. So agile, so organizations, not even private but public, they have gained the trust of agile adoption, and they will continue to adopt agile even in the future. These are the leading indicators which help us think, that even tomorrow, even some of the processes, new frameworks, they may come, but they cannot be aloof of agile. That's why all the even the upcoming frameworks, they go hand in hand with agile. Now, some of the top reasons for adopting agile. Why some of these companies, they're adopting agile? What are the top reasons? Accelerated software delivery, one of the top reasons why some agile is being adopted, why some of these organizations are adopting agile. Better time to market, right? So if you accelerate software delivery, better time to market, then you are able to launch your product into the market in time, when there is a demand of that project, unlike before, that you are launching your product in market after there's no value of the product in the market. And I will tell you, some of the technologies, they were so old that, in one of the projects, one of the aeronautics project, it was one of the NASA project, and in 1980s, when they started that, when they came up with the product, the technology which was used was from 1960s. So there was a gap of like 10 to 20 years in the technology. So that's what, prompted the industry to think about, what's next. We need to change our product development methodology. We need to change, need to come up with new processes for an effective time to market for our products. So accelerated software delivery, and then changing priorities. Agile is able to adapt to changing priorities. That was another, pain point which agile solves, and keeps customers happy. Increasing productivity, alignment, software quality, predictability, visibility, all these are factors why companies have started to adopt agile. And even if you see at the bottom, some of the organizations, they believe that distributed teams are better managed by using agile. So that's why they have adopted agile. And then some of the common agile methodologies. So earlier I said, Scrum is the most commonly used or most widely used agile, or flavor of agile, or agile methodology. So it's being used. So 56% of the total agile methodology distribution, so 56% is taken by Scrum. So Scrum is the most widely used agile methodology, followed by some of the other hybrid methodologies, and others like Scrum, XP, etc., Lean. all those 45. But see, it's whopping 56%. So for some people today, Scrum means Agile, and Agile means Scrum. Okay, so we'll talk about different flavors of Agile. What are the different methodologies? We'll just touch these methodologies at a high level. So Scrum, as we already discussed, it's a form of an Agile approach which use underlying Agile principles and manifesto, and it works in, again, short iterations, and it works it's an incremental approach to development of a product. And in Scrum, your iterations are called sprints, and the requirements are prioritized in a backlog, and then they are planned and they are worked through the sprints. And at the end of each sprint, the team presents the usable product or the working software to the business owners or your customers. So there's a continuous feedback. Okay, and then extreme programming. Extreme programming also came into picture in mid 1990s along with Scrum. However, it did not gain that much traction, but still, a lot of these practices, like new practices which are coming up, or new models which are coming up, they use extreme programming practices. So automation was one of the key ingredients of extreme programming, that everything should be automated, and there should be integrations which should be happening on daily basis. So it was basically extreme level of programming, which because it was believed that if integrations are done on daily basis, then it will be our products will be more predictable and the quality will increase. And also the team members, they would pair together, which is famously called as pair programming. So it came from extreme programming, where your team members, they will pair together. So two developers, they are looking at one computer, or they are working on one computer, and they're coding things together. So it was believed that four eyes are better than two eyes, and two brains are better than one brain. So pair programming was one of the very important practices in extreme programming. Lean software development. What does lean mean? Look at your process flow and then identify the processes which are causing delay, which are causing waste. So we can eliminate those processes and those steps from our workflow, right? Because those steps, they first of all increase time to market, and they do not add any value to customers. So identify those bottlenecks, and then remove them. So that was the primary focus of lean software development. Scrumban. So Scrumban is also even used today, and it's basically a mix of Scrum and Kanban. So what it does is it combines Scrum and Kanban, and it organizes work in short sprints. So we will have sprints, maybe 2-week or 3-week sprints, and we will limit the amount of work in progress that we are taking in each stage of the sprint. Okay, so we will limit the amount of work in progress, and we will keep it in time box manner in the form of sprints. And the work is pulled only when your work in the current stage is finished, or your current tasks have been completed. Only then you are going to pull the work into action from the previous stage. So that is what is called Scrumban, and I'll give you an example. I have used Scrumban, and if we, and we could use and we were using softwares like Jira and Rally, right? So all these tools, they have capability that you can also see the Kanban view in these tools. So we were following the sprints. We were following the sprints. So we had sprints. We were putting our user stories. We were putting our user story points. But also we were monitoring the Kanban state of where we lie today. If we look at the snapshot, how many stories are in defined state, how many stories are in progress or execution, and how many stories are in testing, etc. So we were following basically Scrum, scaled agile framework. Okay, so this is basically the underlying principle of scaled agile framework comes from agile and lean practices. So it's a systems thinking approach. So basically we are building components, but while building the components, we are not only thinking about those components, we are thinking about the whole system which is built from those components. So it basically helps us look at a wider view, and it helps synchronize our work and projects across an organization. And it also scales up agile, for into the large and complex projects and solutions, and also at the organization, at the enterprise level, at the portfolio level. So that is what is called a scaled agile framework. And then large scale Scrum, which is called also called less, it is nothing but it's a set of teams, or it's a group of multiple teams which coordinate together to create one single large scale product. So that is what is called large scale Scrum. So all the activities of those teams, and they are synchronized to achieve the overall goal and objective to create a product. Kanban. So Kanban, as I also discussed before, it basically helps us visualize the workflow and establish work WIP limits. How much work, how much maximum work can I take within a particular bucket? Okay, and it helps us identify, it helps us streamline and enhance the throughput, and it helps us improve our process, and it continuously improves our process, and also helps us identify the bottlenecks easily. And again, the work is pulled into the next stage after existing work has been completed. And it is very useful in the areas um, when there are requirements which are being added at different time intervals and at varying times. So it helps the team to focus only on the current work, and they are not bothered about what is there in the backlog or what is there in the pipeline. So they are only focused on their current limited amount of work, and they will take the next piece of work only when the current work is complete. Okay, so delving into Scrum. Okay, so Scrum is based on three pillars, which are transparency, inspect, and adapt. And basically, what it means is that the teams, they are transparent with each other, and even at any level, everyone everyone knows what other person is working on, and what is also everyone knows how whatever the component they are building, how it impacts the overall organizational goals. So there is transparency across all levels. And inspect and adapt, meaning that uh, at various points we are looking back, we are stopping, looking back how we did, we are inspecting that, and then what improvements I need to make in my product based upon that feedback, and I move forward with those improvements. And there are five Scrum values like courage, focus, commitment, respect, and openness. So basically what Scrum says is that your team members should be courageous enough to innovate. They should be that safe environment that should be created, so they are able to speak up when if there is any issue, if they see any issue in the design, development, or anywhere. So they should be able to speak up. They have focus. They're focused on the goals. They focus on the objectives. They focus on the iteration of or sprint objectives. And commitment, they all are committed. So during the planning, sprint planning, they commit, they provide their commitments. So because it's a team commitment, so they feel accountable to whatever they committed on. They respect each other, right? So what helps is, so once that respect for each other brings that courage to speak up. And then openness, they should be open enough to give any ideas, and these ideas should be respected, and um, there should be transparency in terms of whatever anyone is building, and also in the sharing of ideas. And then, as I mentioned, teams, they execute iterations with Scrum. So it starts with product backlog, And then, where we keep all our user stories and our items. And then in the sprint planning meeting, we basically, the teams, they plan for this upcoming sprint, what items, what are the high priority items or stories that should be taken. And then the backlog, those stories, they go into the sprint backlog. So that backlog is basically the work which is for that particular sprint, whatever stories we are taking in that particular sprint. And then once the execution starts, the scrum master performs daily scrum meetings where he or she kind of tries to help the team if there are any impediments or team is facing any issues, or anything. And also, if how the team is doing against their iteration goals and iteration objectives. And then the sprint review and retrospective happens towards the end, where they demo their working product, whatever they built, to the stakeholders, and they do a retrospective, how we did in the previous sprint and how we can improve, what are my improvement items that I can bring into my upcoming sprints. So talking about SAFe, so it's world's leading framework for enterprise agility. So it's a knowledge base of proven integrated principles and practices and competencies. So it's proven integrated principles. So these, whatever the ingredients of SAFe, whatever SAFe underlying principles of SAFe are, so that is basically, they are proven across different industries, hundreds of organizations, what works for those organizations. So it's a base of proven integrated. So all those are integrated principles and practices. Basically, what are the practices and processes which need to be followed for that. And then competencies, the competencies which need to be built in order to get better productivity, better time to market, in order for employee satisfaction, customer satisfaction, how we can do that. So it's what that knowledge base is basically SAFe for lean enterprise. And what it uses ingredients from lean, agile, and DevOps. Now, if we see, the adoption of agile scaling methods. So agile, so SAFe is at the top in terms of the adoption uh, against other scaling methods, followed by Scrum and then other methods. It's whopping 45%. It takes 45% out of the percentage, majority out of the percentage of the agile scaling methods. So it's SAFe is the world leading framework right now in terms of adoption. Now, quickly, I'll go through this SAFe big picture. So, and I'm sure, if many of you might have seen this SAFe big picture. So basically what this picture does is, if I look at this picture, it describes SAFe in just one snapshot, right? So it talks about the core values of SAFe, which are built-in quality, program execution, alignment, and transparency. So these are the four values on which SAFe is built, four core values. And then it talks about, it also depicts the competencies. There are 7 competencies across different levels of SAFe, on which SAFe relies upon, right? Or on which SAFe is built upon. So we talk more about the SAFe big picture in our courses, when we do our certification courses for different which are role based courses. So we talk more about each one of these aspects in different courses, or in different trainings for SAFe, which are 2 full day trainings. So I will not cover in this 1 hour session everything, but this is the SAFe big picture, which kind of gives a glimpse of what SAFe is. And then again, we have SAFe lean agile principles, which are taking an economic view, looking at the economics of what we are taking and what we are prioritizing, and then applying systems thinking, as we already discussed before, and then assuming variability and preserving options, meaning keeping our options open. So not finalizing for example, our design in the beginning itself. We should keep our design options open, and that design should evolve when we are building it. And then building our incrementally fast integrated learning cycle. So uh, as I said, right, so building a component, then testing it, and then building another component, testing it, and then integrating those components and then testing it. So basically, uh, testing each and every component and integrating each and every component at a faster pace, and then basing our milestones on objective evaluations of working systems. So basically what it means is, like, at the end, when we are doing our sprint review, this is nothing but basically doing our objective evaluation of working systems. So we get the objective results, objective metrics and everything at the end of our in the sprint review, and then based off of that, we improve and we adapt. And then visualize and limit our WIP, reducing batch sizes and manage queue length. So we try to, manage our queue lengths. We try to keep our user stories small and limit our work in progress, so that helps increase our throughput. And then we also talk about, having cadence and having synchronizations with cross domain planning. So having for example, all our teams synchronized and working on the same cadence. What it means is, uh, having just 2 week sprints for every team, and then starting at the same date and ending the sprint at the same date, right? Unlocking the intrinsic motivation of knowledge workers, right. So basically bringing, how mastery, purpose, how it can unlock the intrinsic motivation of knowledge workers, how our workers, they can be kept motivated all the time. And then how we can empower the team by giving them power to take decisions which are at a smaller level maybe, and which are infrequent, or sorry, which are frequent, right? So giving them power. So what that helps is empowering your knowledge workers. What it helps, how it helps is, it helps induce trust, and it also builds confidence in the team, right? And then organizing around value. So safe is basically built around organizing our value streams, how our products are providing value to the customer. So from there we start building our value streams into our release trains and then teams, right? So basically safe starts by organizing around value, and if that value shifts for an end customers, this whole chain of value will also shift according to that. Now we talk about all these principles in our 2-day classes, where we get a lot of more time talk about them. So we have our upcoming classes, like I'm doing safe advanced scrum master on June 27 28, leading safe on July 4th and 5th, where you get these are all 2-day trainings, and then you have to give an exam within 30 days. So once you pass the exam, uh, you get certified. You get certified for that particular certification, right? So then product owner, product manager, how you can become a safe product owner, product manager, we talk about that. How you can become a safe scrum master, we talk about that in that 2-day training, right? So it's on July 18th and 19th. And then safe lean portfolio manager, if you want to learn about the lean portfolio and how you can become a lean portfolio manager. So that one, it's a 3-day course that we are doing on July 25th to 27th. And if you need more details, you can email me on pratik.gupta@10agile.com, or you can also visit our website at www.10agile.com. So let us know if there are any questions or anything. We are always there for you at 10agile. So any questions from anyone? All right, then thank you everyone for joining our webinar today. I hope you got a lot of information, and just post us any, if you may have any questions or anything about the courses, or about this presentation, or about any aspect of Agile, Waterfall, Safe, or anything. Just we are there to help you out. So you can email me, or you can also reach out to info at 10agile.com. So you can reach our website, and we would be happy to help you out. So thank you everyone for listening to us today, and have a great day. Thank you.